Even in war, I still deliver the mail, written by a yellow-clad. Hellworld, a world ravaged by unexpected war, home to a peaceful but not pacifist species of amphibians, and invaded by the R-Lane, a lizard species known for eschewing typical war machines like armored trucks or tanks in favor of simply running down their foes and dispatching them in melee. They are feared, and rightfully so. For the large lizards are generally considered the second biggest species in the galaxy to achieve spaceflight, and they are incredibly aggressive. But to their benefit, they are not xenocidal, which ensures that for all their aggression and ill views, they are avoided rather than eradicated by a fearful galaxy. Interestingly enough, a newcomer species had decided to take offense to all of this posturing and extreme aggression of the R-Lane. Humans, considered the 10th smallest species in the galaxy, had butted heads with the R-Lane on several occasions, but it had never escalated into full-blown war. That is, until they invaded the homeworld of an ally, specifically the Izza of HFY. Though, as humanity would very quickly discover, this is not the only world to be attacked. This was the last straw. It was one thing to duke it out with a species that knew how to take a punch, but the Izza was small and on the path of regression as far as the technology was concerned, looking to be more in tune with their planets and shift away from traditional spacefaring means. As such, their weapons and defenses would be no match for the R-Lane warriors, who even now prepared to march on the capital city. A tall warrior strode through the ranks, tail swishing beneath his crimson cape as he surveyed his forces. Fine warriors, each one blooded and a veteran of countless conquests. If Kalzler willed it, they would be the ones to force the surrender of the weak Izza, and ensure the subjugation was complete. Such a feat would bring great honor upon them, and when eventually passed on, Kalzler would welcome them into his hall with open arms. The army was nearly ready when there was a flash of light from just beyond the perimeter, and an oddly dressed human appeared. Their attire was formal, a rich blue color, and they wore a brimmed hat and brown bag. Thousands of eyes stared incredulously at the human as they looked around, nodded, and then approached them casually, as if they were merely a gathering of strangely dressed people and not a war party. "I'm looking for Commander Bajulu," the human called out, and Bajulu stepped forward, rising to his full height and absolutely towering over the human, who actually had to lean back just to look him in the eye. "Who are you to seek an audience with me, and alone no less? A bold strategy for one as pathetic as your species is," Bajulu spoke, his voice rolling over the plains and his warriors chuckling. The humans merely sneezed into his handkerchief, apologizing and mentioning something about allergies, before lifting a flap of his bag and pulling out several rectangular pieces of paper, neatly folded and sealed with wax. "I'm the mailman. I deliver the mail. I was told to get these to you and make sure that you read them before I moved on," he said. He sat looking at the envelopes before handing one to Bajulu. The Lord Commander was surprised, then confused as to why he would be receiving any sort of communication via the humans, let alone in such a primitive medium, when a simple electronic communique would do. Carefully, Bajulu took the offered envelope between the two claws and inspected it. According to the primitive yet neat ink markings upon the face, they had come directly from the seat of humanity's government and power, Earth. Turning it over, he noticed that the wax seal was a rich dark purple and bore a crest, one he'd seen plenty of times whenever he'd been present as honor guard for the human's imperial family. This was not just a letter from some governors or senators, but straight from the Emperor's desk itself. With a snort, he sliced through the seal and plucked out the single sheet of paper within and began to read. "From the office of His Imperial Majesty Caius Velius Proximus, we, the Empire of Earth, hereby declare war against the R-Lane hegemony for their acts of aggression against the sworn ally of humanity. We shall defend those we've sworn to protect till either we emerge from the smoke and blood victorious, or we lay broken at the feet of our foes. Regardless of the outcome, we shall ensure our enemy knows the depths of their mistake in earning our ire, and we hope that they shall take it into account when they next desire conquest. Let it be known that we shall adhere to our rules of warfare. But any actions the R-Lane hegemony may undertake during the course of this conflict that violates the human/Dino rights of ourselves or the Izza shall be met with a declaration of total war. Such violations include, but are not limited to. The list grew quite tiny, and Bajulu had to squint and pull the paper closer just to read the many potential infractions that would cause the declaration of total war. A scaled brow rose at more than a few of them, and eventually he grew annoyed with such a length of list and skipped ahead. Should the Arlene hegemony adhere to these rules, then this war shall be conducted under the expectation that should one side emerge victorious, that the defeated shall not be wiped from the face of the galaxy or enslaved. At the cessation of this conflict, aid must be provided to both sides as requested or needed to ensure the continuation of both peoples. Should one group fail to provide such aid, it shall be remembered and never forgiven. We thank you for your time, and may the best species win. Sincerely, the Emperor. Bajulu fumed and had half a mind to slaughter the human that stood before him, who was currently rocking back and forth at his heels as he waited for Bajulu to finish reading. Anything else, human? The Lord Commander hissed, his warriors hearing the threatening tone and perking up, long tongues licking their chops as they thought of eating their first human. Yes, sir, just this. Oh, and can I get your fingerprint right here? I need confirmation of delivery, he said, holding out both the second letter and a tablet. Bajulu snorted with annoyance, but pressed his thumb to the tablet, watching as it scanned his fingerprint and peeped in confirmation. He then took the second letter and started to open it, noting that it was far less fancy than the first and seemed to have come from someone called General Hargrave. Thank you for your time. If you have any complaints, just give us a call, the human said, giving a casual wave before he vanished, presumably teleported back to his ship, if he had one. Bajulu huffed, even more annoyed now that he couldn't eat the human. But he had a letter to read, and so he pulled out the paper within the envelope and saw that the message was rather short. Dear Grid Reference, get fucked. The message made no sense to Bajulu. Why was he being told to get mated with? It made no sense to him, but it quickly did when in the distance explosions began to appear. The rolling thunder of heavy artillery booming from miles away as the rolling barrage descended upon their lines in an instant. And for the first time, the Arlene met their match. Aboard the Imperial Postal Service ship Visitor, the postman looked through his various letters that were as yet undelivered. Practically all of them were meant for war zones where Arlene had begun their campaign of conquest against Izza. So many letters, so little time. He knew, of course, that there were others out there doing the same job he was, so his portion of the work was rather small, all things considered. Dropping the bag beside his chair, he placed his hands on the controls of his ship inside, locking in the coordinates for his next stop, jumping to FDL just as the Imperial counter-invasion fleet warped in. It was going to be a busy, busy week, for the post never sleeps. End of story. Story number 2. We Who Run, written by Shadeskira. Kyla stood nervously at the front of the classroom, her hands gripping a sleek alien material podium. Her human skin, so soft and unarmored compared to the exoskeleton, scales and fur of her classmates, prickled under the multi-species gaze. The Interstellar Community Academy was the most prestigious school in the galaxy, hosting students from dozens of species across the known universe. Kyla, the only human, was both a curiosity and an enigma. She had learned to endure the stares, but presenting on humanity's hunting practices to a room of herbivores and omnivore species was a challenge she hadn't anticipated. The holographic projector hummed to life behind her, displaying earth-sprawling savannas. Kyla took a deep breath and began. Good morning, she said, her voice clear but edged with nervous energy. Today I'll be discovering the unique hunting practices of humans, the only species from a Deathworld to join the interstellar community. There were murmurs. Deathworld always sparked unease. Most species hailed from garden worlds, safe, stable planets with mild ecosystems. But Earth was a volatile, dangerous place, teeming with predators, disaster, and environmental extremes. Kyla gestured to the hologram, which shifted to a pack of humans running through golden grassland, spears in hand. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, she explained. Unlike most predators, we didn't rely on speed, strength, or venom. Instead, we used endurance and strategy. Our ancestors chased prey, often animals much larger and stronger than us, until they collapsed from exhaustion. The room went silent, save for a quiet hum of the projector. The Carithian student, covered in soft blue feathers, raised a clawed hand. "Are you saying that you run them to death?" Kyler nodded. "In a way, yes. Most creatures evolved for short bursts of speed. Humans, on the other hand, are uniquely adapted for long-distance running. We sweat to cool ourselves and regulate our breathing independently of movement, allowing us to outlast even the fastest prey." The hologram shifted, showing humans tracking a wounded animal for hours, their eyes scanning the ground for signs of passage. "We also developed unparalleled tracking skills," Kyler continued. "We could read the land, broken branches, displaced soil, and even subtle shifts in scent to follow prey over vast distances. It was a test of patience, intelligence, and resilience." A hulking Travaxian with gleaming scales leaned forward. "But why? Why not rely on weapons or traps like other species?" Kyler smiled faintly. "We didn't have a choice. Early humans were physically weaker than most predators on Earth. We couldn't overpower them, and our weapons were primitive. Persistence hunting was our way of surviving in a hostile world. It forged us into what we are today, toolmakers, strategists, and problem solvers." The hologram shifted to a collage of Earth's iconic prey: antelope, bison, mammoths, and even apex predators like lions, which humans sometimes competed with for kills. "Our prey ranged from small antelope to massive megafauna like mammoths," she said. "Each hunt was a collaborative effort, relying on teamwork and communication. It wasn't just about survival. It was the foundation of our social structure and culture." The slim insectoid student clicked his mandibles. "And what happened to these animals? Did they survive your arrival?" Kyler hesitated. This was the hard part. Some did, many didn't. As we advanced, our tools became more effective, and we became the dominant species on Earth. It's something we've struggled with, the balance between survival and sustainability. Today, humans work to preserve the ecosystems we once exploited. We've learned from our mistakes." The room fell silent again, the alien students processing the weight of her words. Finally, a small reptilian Heresian raised its voice. "Your methods are unsettling, but I see why your species is so resilient. You were shaped by struggle." Kyler nodded. "Exactly. Our Deathworld forced us to adapt in ways no other species has. Persistence hunting was just one part of that. It taught us to endure, to think ahead, and to rely on each other. Those traits define us as much as anything else." As she finished, the hologram faded, and the classroom buzzed with whispers and exchanged glances. Kyler stepped back, her heart still racing, but a flicker of pride warmed her chest. For the first time, she felt her peers truly understood what it meant to be human. End of story. I'd greatly like to thank our Tier 5 channel members: Caspar Arnholtz, John Creighton, Manatharia, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.